Labor Day. Have you ever wondered why there is a random holiday in September? Ever wonder what led to this 3-day weekend being established? Did the government just decide to create a holiday out of nowhere? If you ever asked these questions, I hope to satisfy your curiosity. If you didn't, thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something from this video. Central Labor Union held its first Labor Day on September 5th, 1882, and the second a year later on September 5th, 1883. By 1894, 23 more states adopted the holiday. Records indicate two different men proposed a general holiday for the laboring class to honor those from labor movements of the past who fought for the improved working conditions, wages, and shortened working hours. One man, Peter J. McGuire, was General Secretary of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners, as well as a co-founder of the American Federation of Labor. The other man thought to have created the holiday was Matthew McGuire, who was believed to have submitted the proposal while serving as Secretary of Central Labor Union in New York. It is believed September was likely chosen because it falls halfway between July 4th and Thanksgiving holidays. The history of labor in the United States hasn't exactly been sunshine and rainbows. Turns out the rich and powerful don't like when workers organize and fight for their fair share. The business owners would send private agencies like Pinkertons to break up organizers, usually violently. When that wouldn't succeed, good old Uncle Sam would do it, whether it be police officers dispersing striking workers, the armed forces being ordered to break up labor rallies, or the Supreme Court ruling against labor unions regularly. In 1827, journeymen tailors from Philadelphia protested several colleagues getting fired by going on strike. The employees were fired because they demanded higher wages from their employer. After their picketing, the business owner took them to court. The theory backing the claim was the striking workers' actions constituted conspiracy to harm commerce and the interests of third parties. The jury found the journeymen tailors guilty. This set back some of the earliest efforts of labor organizing, collectively bargaining to protect their interests. The first U.S. strike fatalities were in 1850. Police were dispatched to disperse a crowd of strikers. 2 tailors were killed, along with many others injured. During the late 19th century, railroad companies were the biggest businesses due to the rapidly industrializing country. Railroad companies reduced pay by 10% in 1873 to maintain their profits after an economic depression. In 1877, they reduced pay another 10% and forced workers to stay in company hotels when away from home, therefore cutting more into their real wages. On top of that, they reduced the workforce. This meant that those who weren't laid off had to complete the others' work for even less than their normal pay. A workers' strike began in West Virginia, which then spread from St. Louis and Chicago to New York and Baltimore. July 19th of 1877, the strike got to Pittsburgh. A Philadelphia militia, which is equivalent to the modern-day National Guard, were called in to quote-unquote keep the peace. The Philadelphia militia was called in because the Pittsburgh militia were deemed unreliable because of sympathizations with the rail strikers. The superintendent from the Pennsylvania Railroad and a posse of constables tried enforcing arrest warrants on the strike leaders. A crowd of men, women, and children tried blocking them, protesting the presence of troops in support of the strikers. The militia responded with a bayonet charge. This action provoked the crowd into throwing rocks at the troops. In response, the troops opened fire on the unarmed group of men, women, and children. At least 20 died, including 1 woman and 3 small children. 29 others were wounded. Other workers from cities and towns in Pennsylvania joined in solidarity with the striking workers with general strikes, mass demonstrations, and sometimes violent confrontations, though not as violent as in Pittsburgh. July 26 saw regulars of the U.S. Army and the state militia take control of the city and reopen railroads in Pittsburgh and the surrounding area. The strike was broken similarly throughout the country. In October 1884, the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Unions unanimously set May 1st, 1886 as the date the 8-hour workday would become standard. When that date came, the 8-hour workday was not the standard. On May 1st, 1886, 30,000 to 40,000 workers had gone on strike in Chicago, the movement center. This was done in solidarity with the striking workers across the United States, planned on that day, totaling between 300,000 and 500,000 workers. On May 3rd, August Spies spoke to a swath of striking workers outside McCormick Harvesting Machine Company plant, advising them to hold together, stand by their union, or they would not succeed. The strike had remained nonviolent until the end of the workday bell. A group of workers surged at the strikers. Organizers called for calm, but police fired into the crowd. August Spies testified, "I knew from experience of the past that this butchering of people was done for the express purpose of defeating the 8-hour movement." A rally was called the next day to protest the use of police force. 1,300 to 1,400 labor activists gathered in Haymarket Square. The city was on edge after the incident at McCormick plant the day before. The mayor of Chicago, Carter Harrison, made his presence known to the speakers of the rally by lighting cigars several times throughout the rally. Harrison later testified the speeches at Haymarket were tame by the standards of the time. Harrison left early, feeling his presence wasn't needed. Around 10:30 p.m., Samuel Fielding was the final speaker and told the crowd his remarks would be brief. With a fraction of the crowd left because the rally was winding down, Inspector John Bonfield decided to assemble 175 police officers without explanation. Bonfield's second-in-command, Captain William Ward, ordered, in the name of the state of Illinois, the meeting to disperse immediately and peaceably. In Fielding's testimony, he claimed he had less than a minute remaining in his speech. He also responded to Captain Ward at the time with, "Why, Captain, this is a peaceable meeting." The captain angrily repeated his orders. Eyewitnesses disagree exactly what happened next, but a bomb was thrown amongst the police. Shrapnel was sent through the ranks of the police. Understandably terrified, police initiated shooting in every direction. Most of the wounded police officers were from bullets, likely some from their own colleagues. Believing they were again being attacked by the police, the remaining crowd volleyed gunfire back. 7 police officers and at least 4 workers were killed. Some police died from their wounds days later, and an 8th police officer died 2 years later from complications from the riot. Grover Cleveland was the U.S. president from 1885 to 1889, and again from 1893 to 1897. In May 1894, in Chicago, workers for the Pullman Palace Car Company called for a strike to protest wage cuts and the killing of a worker. The American Railroad Union called for a boycott on working on all Pullman railway cars in solidarity with the Pullman worker. Train traffic west of Detroit was non-existent within a couple days. President Cleveland responded by calling in the army to suppress the strikes. At least 26 were killed amongst protests that broke out. The government and big business were seen hand in hand at this time due to the court system and the military intervention. After the Pullman incident, President Cleveland knew quick action was needed to appease the labor movement, so he pushed for Labor Day to become a federal holiday. Cleveland wanted to avoid the May 1st date because the Haymarket incident during his first term galvanized the world's communist, socialist, and anarchist movements. He felt to avoid strengthening communist and socialist movements as well as preventing similar protests like Haymarket, the first Monday of September would be chosen to be the official Labor Day of the United States of America. Little did he know, he could avoid Haymarket and Pullman incidents by not sending police and or military to provoke peaceful labor protests. So there you have it. A little background on some of the events leading up to the establishment of Labor Day as the federal holiday and 3-day weekend most American residents enjoy every year. As you heard, majority of the events began when employers disregarded the humanity of their workers to maintain or increase their profits. The employers' wallets are all that mattered to them. Luckily, after the establishment of Labor Day, there was no more violence initiated by private corporations and or the government during labor disputes. Oh, wow. I guess I spoke a bit too soon. Workers continue to fight for their fair share of the value that they create. As one of the most celebrated men in this country once said, "Capital is only the fruit of labor and could never have existed if labor had not first existed." I'll dive more into that guy in another video. Work safety regulations are written in the blood of those who came before us. Workers of the past were maimed and or killed from the lack of regulations at the time. Labor protesters were killed and injured to get you the 8-hour workday, 40-hour work week, overtime pay, and even preventing the use of child labor. Apparently, we're regressing a bit with that one. Media coverage of labor actions will indirectly or directly pin blame on the labor in the dispute. There are 2 parties in the labor dispute. The employers can concede to the labor's reasonable requests. The media is ultimately exercising class solidarity because they want to continue to pad their profits, just like the employer in the labor dispute. Ironically, profits they only have because of the value created by labor. During this and every future Labor Day, be sure to give a thought to those who have sacrificed before us. Those who have put their life on the line to ensure that those of us can work in safe conditions, have life outside of work, and maybe make enough money to enjoy life a little bit more. It's important we do not fall back on our laurels and regress. Just as those of yesteryear fought for better wages and working conditions, those who fight today are fighting for future generations. As long as the working class continues to stand in solidarity and fight for their fair share and value, we can continue to ensure those who came after us will be taken care of. Check out this video on how work has changed over the centuries. It's definitely worth a watch.
From all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell of how the good old Union has come in.
Like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side